Hey, Ante,
Rachel,
what do you know about your first visit to Japan?
what do I know? Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
So,
Welcome back to the waiting room.
welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back to the waiting room.
Hey,
I'm the food snob with a day job, Rachel.
I'm Ante. I'm here to talk about stuff.
you need a cool catchphrase
I'll find
type
one.
thing.
Nah, I'll get one.
Yeah.
I do have a catchphrase, but we'll get to that a bit later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last time we introduced ourselves, but we didn't really talk about why we're called the waiting room.
Yeah, because we started talking about it
Like we kind of did, but we didn't
and then just did the typical podcast thing, which is to just ramble and sidetrack and go
just
on to
go
something else.
right off the rails.
Yeah, so might as well. Should we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain a little bit to our lovely audience why
Yeah.
we're called the waiting room?
So anyone who's watching the last, well, not the last episode, the first
The first
episode, yeah.
episode, yeah.
So we did talk about some of the modeling gigs we did, and one of the first ones we did was the one that was on TV, the documentary for the ABCC, and what was the other acronym?
It's now the RERF. but it
RERF,
was
yep.
the ABCC, which you can find a link to on our first podcast that we put out, which is on YouTube and all the other
Yep.
lovely podcast outlets. You can find a link to that.
Check that out. That's all English subtitled as well, so
Yes.
anyone doesn't speak Japanese, it's all good. Just read it. Anyway, back to, the waiting room. So that gig, we were dressed up as a doctor and a nurse.
Yes.
Hence,
That's why we're called the waiting room.
waiting room. And just thought, we'll just stick with that image. So, yeah, a little bit of a quick backstory, but that's why we're the waiting room.
So like we kind of explained it last time, but not really.
We did what we didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't. It's really weird. We also, I don't think we really introduced ourselves properly, I guess. I mean,
No.
I know that some people listening might already know who we are
Yep.
and where we're from and what we're about. But for any of you new listeners/viewers, we should probably say a little bit about who we are.
Yeah.
So my name is Rachel. I'm originally from the US and I've been living in Hiroshima for 16 years. I am a translator, local TV commentator, narrator, social media content creator, basically anything to just supplement my income. So, Ante, what about you? How would you?
Man, you're busy.
I know. And now I'm a podcastress, so you know
Oh, yeah, look at that.
the
Man,
list goes
start
on.
Start a podcast. That's another job, man.
It is
It
another
really
job.
is. Pays nothing. It's
Pays-
good fun, though.
Yeah, it pays absolutely nothing, but you know,
Unless someone sponsor us. Hey, we're on episode 2, but put it out there.
yeah.
Actually, no, we are sponsored.
Well, we are sponsored by AM Laser Made.
That's my company. So, so pretty much my name's Ante. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I've been here for about 6 years now in Hiroshima.
Mhm.
And what do? Well, I work in design and making things. I hide away in my workshop and conjure up all sorts of wares, from
Yeah.
signage to souvenirs or whatever people want.
You're like a real content creator in that you make actual things.
Yeah.
I'm like a digital content creator, so I make like imaginary fake things.
But I'm getting into the digital side too.
You are
and
indeed.
It's a lot of fun, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like this whole, I've heard a lot of people say it, like when they're starting, with podcasts or especially YouTube channels,
Mhm.
and they're like, yeah, editing's fun when you first start.
Yeah.
I'm still,
I agree. I
Yeah.
hard agree with that, actually. It's really fun when you first start out, and then it kind of dissolves into a chore where you're like, why did I take so much footage? Why do I have to cut all this down? Yeah.
no, I'm definitely in that first part, and it's like, oh, this is so much fun. It takes me ages to do something, though.
Oh, yeah. It does take a long
I'm
time.
sure it gets quicker and quicker, but then you just add more things to, what you can do, and then just, do you ever really win then? I don't know.
I mean, it's a really good way to kill time.
Yeah.
I would say, if you have time to
You got
kill.
time to kill, yeah.
Yeah, it's the perfect way to do it because you get sucked into it. But before we get stuck into that,
Yes.
today's topic.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about first trips to Japan.
First trips to Japan, which
Not for you guys. We're still talking about us.
just us.
Yeah.
If you have any comments or stories from your first trip to Japan,
Mhm.
you can chime in with us. The waiting room, jpn@gmail.com,
Yep.
or leave a comment
yep,
below. But for now, just us,
Just us.
our experience.
We'll get to you, though.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. So,
But I
Rachel.
think
Yeah?
Yeah. I think we have very different, probably, experiences with our first trip to Japan and the circumstances around it.
Also quite a few years differences too.
Yeah. As I found out because I had to look it up.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of notes here today.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be referring to my notes a lot.
You have a lot of notes there, but if you
know.
don't mind, before I don't want to go too deep into it, but before your trip to Japan, did you have any influences, like Japanese influences in your life that went, you know what?
I have a really big
Yeah.
influence.
What was that?
The whole reason I got into like Japan and Japanese was when I was in middle school. So I grew up in Columbia, Maryland, which is a suburb on the east coast of the U.S.
Yeah.
It's about 30 to 40 minutes away from Baltimore, big city in Maryland. And I lived in this very planned community.
Yeah.
Like this community was planned out in like, I believe this, like the probably either like the 80s or the 70s. So like there's a blueprint for every sort of town there.
So
And
is this like is it a big place or a small place? What would you say?
I would say Columbia it's not like huge,
Yeah.
but it's big enough.
Mhm.
And
Compared to
so
like Hiroshima?
compared to Hiroshima, a lot more spacious.
Yeah. Okay.
So I lived in this neighborhood, and most of the houses, like our neighbors, kind of grew up with those people.
Mhm.
But in the middle of my American schools, right? Middle school is 3 years.
Yeah.
So during the course of those 3 years, middle school, junior high school, this new family moved into the neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
It's a big deal
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you didn't get a lot of people moving in and out.
Yeah.
New family moved in,
Mhm.
and they had a son and a daughter. The son was, I believe, a year older. The
Yep.
daughter was a year younger, so like
Okay,
right around
yeah.
my age, right?
Yep.
And shout out to Robbie and Julia, who are probably not listening, but if you are, shout out to
Oh,
you.
that'd be awesome. By the way, let me just say, I don't know this story at all. I'm hearing this for the first
Yeah,
time.
I don't think I told you
this
the
is actually
story.
pretty cool. Go on.
So Robbie and Julia, we met and we really hit it off. They were like super cool. They
Yeah.
were into like artsy things, and they were super creative and just like really fun. Like we loved to like sing and like mess around. And Julia really wanted to be an actress, and she actually is
Yeah.
an actress now in New York, which is incredible.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And just like these hugely talented, creative people who I'm like, oh, finally, like I found my people.
That's nice.
And like their mom was a writer. I don't know what their dad did, but he was Lebanese, and he would make this amazing food called kibbeh.
I know kibbeh.
You know kibbeh?
Well, Sydney, Australia, or in Australia in general, there's a big Lebanese community. Yeah.
I had never had anything like it in my life. It's basically like minced beef
Yep.
with like onions, and they make it into like a thin patty, and they fry it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was the most delicious thing. So whenever they were making kibbeh, like Julia would call me and be like, "Oh my God, we're making kibbeh, come over." And I'd be like, "I'm there." And she lived like 2 seconds from my house. So I would just run over and have kibbeh. It was really magical.
Yeah.
So anyway, Robbie and Julia were the people who introduced me to Japanese animation for the first time.
Oh,
And
okay.
thereby Japanese language for the first time.
Yeah.
So I remember watching this, it was a videotape of a subtitled movie called Project Eiko, which I don't know if that's like something that, I don't know if that's the actual title in Japanese or if that was like the title that they gave it.
They always usually change it around, right?
But I remember it focused on these 3 girls, Eiko, Biko, and Siko, which is like girl A, girl B, girl C, who had these like supernatural powers.
Yeah.
And they were like fighting evil or crime or something.
I haven't heard of this one.
Yeah, it was really, really old school. And I remember just hearing Japanese for the first time and thinking like, wow, this is such an expressive language. Because at the time I was studying French, and Japanese was so different.
Yeah.
And I was just like entranced. And then they showed me Ramahaf.
That one I've heard of.
Ramahaf.
That's pretty famous one, that one.
Yeah, really famous. And then at that time, Japanese animation was just becoming a thing in the US, and they had Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z with English subtitles. And I remember watching Sailor Moon and being like, oh, this is incredible. This magical, fantastical world where the main character is 14. I was 14 at the time.
Yeah.
And it was just so like aesthetically just like beautiful, like really interesting concept of like these like magical girls as a genre I didn't know existed until then. And I was obsessed.
So that was your first.
That was my first like
influence.
foray.
I think a lot of people get into Japanese culture that way. Like
Yeah.
anime it's really big now worldwide,
Yeah,
right?
it's huge. But at the time, it was either whatever they were dubbing on TV,
Yeah.
or you would go to this very sketchy video store
Hmm.
and get bootleg VHS copies of fan subbed episodes.
Yeah.
And that was all you had.
Well, the first anime I watched, actually, the first one that I knew was anime,
Hmm.
because there was another one that I watched, but I was very young then, didn't know it was Japanese or anything. But yeah, it was that style. The friend's like, hey, if you check out this anime, and hand over the
Here you
VHS,
go,
here's
kid.
the tape, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was the way it was done. Pass around the videotape, right?
Exactly. That's kind of how it ran. And so anyway, I just really got into like Japanese animation
Yeah.
and Japanese language and early days of the internet. And I would sort of look up phrases in Japanese or try to teach myself like the writing systems or whatever. I got like really into it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first like foray into Japan. And it's almost a little like, it's not cringe, but it's kind of embarrassing to be like, I was into anime, because
Back then it was cringy, I think.
people kind of look down on the anime and like manga nerds that come to Japan. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's
Yeah.
the weebs coming to Japan who don't really know. So
Yeah.
I
yeah,
tend to
that's
really
true.
downplay that aspect of how I got into it,
Yeah.
because I have a little bit of the shame, just a bit of the shame.
Yeah.
But I was like, I got from Sailor Moon, sort of stone stepped into a bunch of others. I'm still into like Evangelion,
Mhm.
Neon Genesis
Classics,
Evangelion,
yeah.
classic, wonderful, just obsessed. And like nobody in my family understood why.
And
They were
especially
like, oh, it's Rachel with the weird
with that,
cartoons
yeah.
again.
When you're talking about Evangelion too, I don't know how many people watch that and go, I don't know what it's about.
It is
I mean, yeah,
it's a lot. There's
it,
a lot.
it's a lot to
We'll have to
take
talk
in.
about that.
Yeah, that's a whole different episode.
Yeah.
But apart from big, big robots fighting and that, and no, there's a whole another thing to that.
Yeah.
But go on, we'll
Anyway,
leave that one alone.
So my first visit to Japan
Yeah.
happened when I was in college.
Mm.
So university, right? My major was Japanese language and culture,
Mhm.
and I was so excited. So my first year at university, I found a winter study abroad program.
Yeah.
Where it was about the performing arts
Mhm.
of Japan, and I was like, "This is it. I'm gonna do it."
Now,
So
specifically about Japan, right?
specifically about performing arts, traditional performing arts in Japan.
Yeah.
And so in the week or so leading up to the trip, we studied the different plays and
Mhm.
things we were going to see.
Mhm.
And the trip was Tokyo, Osaka. Hang on a sec.
Wait, so it was already you knew what plays, like
Yeah.
what
So it was
type
No
of
in
plays?
Kyogen in Kyoto was the first thing we saw.
Okay,
Now,
yeah,
No is extremely old Japanese theater.
Yep.
And I'll get to that when we get there. The second thing we saw was Bunraku, which is traditional puppet theater
yep.
in Osaka. And then we moved on to, I want to say Takarazuka in Hyogo, which is all female, like
Yeah, yeah.
cabaret almost kind of theater. And the last one was Kabuki in Tokyo.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it was like you hit the major spots
Yep.
while seeing these traditional performing arts.
No Kagura, huh?
No Kagura.
Okay.
No, I
we'll get
didn't
onto that.
know about Kagura until much later.
Yeah.
But so when I first went to Japan, we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
My first year at university, right?
Mhm.
I don't even know if I had Facebook
Mhm.
at all. So what we did have though was Livejournal.
Mhm.
Do you know about Livejournal?
I have no idea about Livejournal. This actually came up in a conversation a few days ago, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this Livejournal you speak of? I was like, is it like MySpace? Or is
For
it...
those not in the early 2000s, no. Livejournal was essentially a blog.
Mhm.
So it was a blogging site where at the time you couldn't put up photos or anything,
Yeah.
but you could write journal entries, and you had like, you could make different like icon pictures for yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
You could have like your current mood
Mhm.
or your current song.
Yeah.
And there were all these like little, it's very like narcissistic, because it's just you're writing about like you and your life, and then your friends are following you and they can comment on it.
Yeah.
So it was just like a live blog, except
So it isn't like MySpace, or it is? I don't know.
it's a lot
It's
less frilly than MySpace.
frilly.
You couldn't do as much.
Yeah.
You couldn't make sparkly GIFs happen. You couldn't play music.
Oh,
It was
okay,
just
okay.
like text.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had Livejournal, and my Livejournal still exists. And I'm not telling any of you the address because it is so embarrassing and
Super
cringy.
cringe, yeah.
Not telling anybody. But
It's still running?
it's still there in
You checked
cyberspace.
recently?
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah.
I had to go back because I remember my name. I remember my username. And so I went back and I remembered that it was a winter trip.
Mhm.
And I was like, I know it's January or February, but I was like, God, if I don't remember the year. So I went back, and according to my Livejournal, my first visit to Japan was January 12th, 2004. So a very long time ago.
January 1st,
January 12th, 2004. So 19
2004. Yeah.
19
okay.
years ago,
Yep.
if my math is
Sounds,
correct.
that sounds about right to me.
So I was a freshman,
Yep.
a first-year student at the University of Maryland,
Mhm.
majoring in Japanese. And I used my winter break to go on this trip. And I believe I got a grant or a scholarship that paid for the whole thing.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Oh, awesome.
yeah, which was really nice. And we're going to take a little trip back in time and read what I had to say on January 12th,
Is this
2004
cringy from your, what was it again? What platform was this?
from Livejournal.
Livejournal. This
It's-
is almost as cool as, you know what, anyone who still has a email at Hotmail,
Oh, God, I know.
salute you, man.
Yeah.
That's keeping it real. Anyway,
All right. So
take us back is hopefully not so cringy.
we're gonna
Well,
take you
she's
back.
sharing it, so.
It was quite short. It was
Okay.
quite short. Not too cringy, but here we go.
Yeah.
All right. January 12th, 2004. Okay, all. This is in all lowercase, by the way.
Mhm.
Okay, all. I made it safely here, and man, what a long flight. I have access to computers here, and since I wake up at about 4 a.m. like clockwork, I can use it bright and early. They have lots of neat things in Japan, and it's all clean and shiny. And the curry is excellent. I've used some Japanese too. More later. Take care. I was very into writing in all lowercase.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And this curry comment will come up quite a lot. I was like obsessed with Japanese curry.
This was the start, was it?
And I don't know why. Probably because I wasn't really introduced to the cuisine of curry when I lived back in Maryland. I didn't really go to many Indian places. It wasn't like a thing to me.
Yeah.
So when I had Japanese curry for the first time, I was like, what is this?
Ooh, yeah.
Melange of spices and
I think it would have been the same for me as well. Not until I came to Japan. So
it's like a running
yeah.
theme, and it's very embarrassing.
Hey, Japanese curry is pretty good, man. Don't be embarrassed.
But like what I really remember from that first trip, because it's like a 17-hour flight. It's quite long, right?
Yeah, that is.
And I was really anxious and nervous because it was my first like long haul flight.
Yep.
And my first time going to Japan. And mind you, I was a Japanese language major, and I was like terrified that I wasn't going to like it. And I was like, what if I don't like Japan? And then what am I supposed to do for my major? Well, I mean, I was a first-year student.
Yeah.
So
Okay, you spent 1 year.
I spent like 6 months, and I was really like terrified that I was gonna like hate it. And I believe that we flew from. So this is going to be a lot of U.S. geography. So I'm going to try to make it very easy for everybody to understand.
Yeah.
So I'm on the East Coast, like coast. So like ocean, right next door
Put a map
coast.
up.
Put a map. Maryland, okay?
Yeah.
We flew from Maryland to California, which is on the other side, the West Coast. The West Coast coast.
Right. How many hours is that?
I think it's like a 6-hour, 7-hour flight.
That's 6-7 hour flight. Don't walk it.
And there's a huge time zone difference as well.
Oh, that's right. How
So
many
there's like a
hours?
3 or 4 hour time difference.
Similar like Australia, Sydney all the way to Perth.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it was this
America's bigger.
massively long flight.
Yeah.
And then we had to transfer from California to Japan, which is another like probably 9 hours or so.
Yeah.
So in all, you probably take an entire day to get there.
Yeah.
And I was with my boyfriend at the time,
Yeah.
who was also very excited about going to Japan because he had studied like martial arts and he was studying Japanese.
Mhm.
And I was like so stir crazy by the end of the flight. Like we had like 3 hours left to go,
Yeah.
which is usually like, they serve you food and then it's like an hour until landing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just want to get off this plane. I want to get off this plane so badly. I can't be on this plane anymore. Like I'm gonna go insane. Like I just want to run around this whole plane in circles.
Excuse me, miss. Don't touch the door.
Yeah.
We're still at. Guys, you can't open that door that high.
It was so miserable, and the jet lag was so awful.
Mhm.
You're just awake in the middle of the night and you're exhausted in the middle of the day, right? And
And Rachel said, "You have your boyfriend. You're traveling with your boyfriend. How old were you?"
well, we were in a group. We were in a big group.
No, I'm just thinking,
Right.
how old are you?
Oh God, first year at university. I was probably like 18, 17, 18.
Young love.
Well, we'd been dating at that point for, oh boy, how long?
That
Maybe like
long.
3 years,
Oh,
2 or 3 years, because
Yeah.
we met him when I was in high school.
that's pretty long.
Yeah, we'd been dating for a while. We dated for 8 years
Yeah.
before.
How many people in the group? You said it was group.
Oh yeah, how many people? I want to say more than 10.
Yeah.
Not like a huge group.
No, that's a good group. That's yeah.
It was a great group of people.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so we get to our hotel that had a singular desktop computer for anybody to use to
Yeah.
check their email or whatever.
Mhm.
Just the communal desktop chunky boy computer.
Yep, I can picture it right now.
And I was like, oh, well, at least there's a computer. I can like update Livejournal and check
yep.
emails. So I also apparently had like a group email thing going where I was like, if you want to be added to the group, like let me know in Livejournal.
Yeah.
And I don't think I have that email account anymore, so it's very sad you won't get to see all my group emails. But I was very jet lagged up in the middle of the night. But one thing I really remember is I was awake in the middle of the night in my hotel, my tiny little hotel room.
Mhm.
And I remember hearing the sound of like ambulance sirens and thinking that they sounded different from the ambulance sirens in the US.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, different
And I remember
countries and yep.
I remember hearing that and being like, oh wow, like I'm really in a different country.
Yeah. Did they do it back then too? Because I know people know here, like sirens on. In Australia, it's just the sirens are on.
Mhm.
But here, like when they're getting close to intersections and that, they have whoever's not driving. I guess the other guy is actually on the loudspeaker making announcements for people to, like,
they tell
just
people
get out of
like
the way or
ambulance coming
take care.
through or a police car coming through, like stop
Yeah.
traffic. Or they also, if they're going into a residential area,
Mhm.
they will lower the volume
That's right.
of
Yes.
the siren
Yep.
because it's a residential area.
Yeah.
Which is another interesting thing they do. I didn't know that at the time,
'Cause
but
I've got an ambulance, poor thing, stuck behind me, but it was at a rail crossing.
Mhm.
So I can't move, and it was just a single lane, ambulance behind me. But yeah, the lights are still going. They just turn the siren off.
yeah,
Because it's like, well,
'cause
we
it's like
can't move.
it's like you probably already know,
Yeah.
obviously.
It's very polite of them, though, right?
It is very polite. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember being like, "Oh, we're in like a different country now."
Yeah.
And the first play that we went to see was No Theater, NOH, No Theater,
Mhm.
and it was it was like the day after we landed, and we were all extremely jet lagged,
Yeah,
all
you
of
would
us,
be, right? Yeah.
really, really extremely jet lagged. And No Theater is quite slow.
Mhm.
The movements are slow. The music is slow. It's very classical Japanese theater.
So did you watch it all?
So we were behind the front row.
Yeah.
Okay, the front row was all Japanese people.
Mhm.
And my teacher, before we got in, said, all right, guys, look, none of you fall asleep. Do not fall asleep.
Yeah.
I know you're tired and I know you're jet lagged, but nobody here is to fall asleep. So
That's a hard call.
So we go in there and we had, learned about the play in advance. And there's No, and then there's ᴑᴏᴅ. And
Yeah.
ᴑᴏᴅ is kind of like a comedy bit.
Yeah.
That is just sort of like this fun comedy bit in the middle.
Yeah.
So, we're watching the play and it's like, it feels like they're taking like 10 minutes to take a single step.
Yeah.
That's how slow it is.
Yeah.
And all the people in the front row are fast asleep. But
Hang on.
we have to remain awake.
Was it a late showing as well, or?
No, it was just like an afternoon thing. Every single person in that front row, every single person, you know who you are, you were all asleep. And we were not allowed to go to sleep.
Yeah.
We were not allowed to go to sleep. It
Yeah.
was it was just so rough. But ᴑᴏᴅ, the funny comic entertaining bit in the middle, that was really fun. Because that's like a
ᴑᴏᴅ.
regular kind of pace where they tell like a humorous story.
Okay, so this is totally different from No.
It's like the little like intermission kind
Okay.
of.
Do they still have like the masks and the?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
yeah.
but it's like more of like a regular kind of thing.
Yeah.
So ᴑᴏᴅ was wonderful.
Mhm.
No, it was rough. And I'm really like grateful I got the chance to see it, but yeah, it was really rough.
Yeah, watching anything while it's like you haven't.
Extremely jet lagged.
That's it,
Yeah.
you-
So let's see. Let's go to my second entry, which is 2 days later on January 14th.
Yeah.
I actually slept through the night last night.
She's alive.
So I am excited.
Nice.
We went to the Byodoin Temple and the Fushimi Inari Shrine, which was my personal favorite. So this is in Kyoto.
Ah.
Moved on to Kyoto. I took lots of pictures. It is orange and gold and had thousands of tori. So tori gates, the like red gates that you often see.
Are they red or are they vermilion?
Vermilion. Yes, vermilion.
Vermilion.
They're vermilion.
Sorry.
And then I also mentioned, oh yeah, I found Melty Kiss candy, which I was obsessed with Melty Kiss, which
I like Melty Kiss.
they're like chocolate truffles essentially. And I thought they were like the most amazing things, and the name was so stupid. So I was just like, these are great.
Yep. Got a favorite? Melty Kiss what?
I like the original one.
Yeah. I don't mind the original one, but if I can find them every now and then, because I like royal milk tea.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the milk tea ones are really good.
Yeah, if I can find them, it's
They're
like,
really
yeah, mine,
good.
man. Yeah.
So I found Melty Kiss candy, and I talked to a Japanese girl when we found a stray black cat. She was nice and asked us where we were from and things of the sort. Also, I got to talk to an older Japanese lady when we took the bus home. Old people around here have so much energy for 80 and up year olds.
Yeah.
They hop around onto the bus and disappear just as quick. It's snowing here. It started last night. It has continued on. Talk about freezing cold, even with 3 layers, a hat, gloves, and a scarf.
You hit the comment right there with the old people. I feel they've got more energy here.
They're very
I feel like
spry.
they're always doing something, or like there's a lot of
Yeah.
like community centers and that
Yeah.
around, and
Oh,
or
yeah.
they're, you know, taking a little course in doing something. I think I mentioned
Yeah.
last time how I do English like 2 or 3 times a
Oh,
month.
yeah, yeah.
And a lot of them are retirees.
And they're
They're
just here to
yeah,
speak some English,
they
have
know
a
the
good
English,
time.
bit of, you know, brain exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a chat. Really cool.
They're I remember being really impressed with how spry they were.
Yeah.
And I don't remember talking to the Japanese girl about the stray black cat. And I don't remember talking to an older Japanese lady on the bus, but I guess I did. So,
But it happened.
but it happened.
It's there. It's all in
Yeah.
writing, people.
But yeah, apparently. So I think a lot of oh wait, there's more to the entry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had more. We went to this cute town called Uji that is known for green tea.
Yeah.
Which is like, it sounds so stupid saying it now because like everyone in Japan is like, duh, Uji green tea. But to me, it was like a revelation because it's very famous. It is very famous for green tea.
Yeah.
It had lots of signs for green tea ice cream, and most of the shops were all decked out in green tea color. Byodoin had a gorgeous Phoenix Hall with a big, big golden Buddha. But I liked the long hike up Kami no Yama at Fushimi. There was a beautiful view of Kyoto from the top more later. So that was my my second entry, which is 2 days later. So a lot about Kyoto, because I remember being so entranced by
Mhm.
the city of Kyoto, because to me, it's like there's there's like old history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the US is a very young country, you know, don't have a lot of really old things.
Yeah.
So seeing like really old things.
Well, you got things that are older than Australia. I don't think is as old as
How old
the
is
US.
Australia as a
Oh, when you're talking about colonization, right? So colonization period, I believe, is 1788. So
wow, so just a little bit younger than the US.
is it? Yeah.
1776.
Yeah. So, okay. I thought you guys were much older.
No, very young.
Oh,
In the
okay.
grand scheme of things.
Cool.
Quite young.
Okay.
Yeah.
The things you learn.
I mean, it was the same kind of colonization deal, same with Australia, essentially. So,
Well, yeah. Well, English just went everywhere.
yeah, they were like, you know what?
Nope, you're mine.
Do you have a flag? Do you know that? Do you know where that's from?
Yeah, I know.
Eddie Izzard.
You have no.
Do you have a flag?
Mine.
No flag, no country. That's the rules.
Does that still apply?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. It didn't really go very well.
No.
You know? So, yeah, very, very young country.
Yeah.
Same with you. So when you see these extremely historical, have been around for, you know, centuries upon centuries,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're just still there.
Mhm.
Nobody's decided to put a car park over it yet.
Yeah.
It's quite like, this is an old historical thing that's been here for a really long time, and I get to touch it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really cool.
I mean, you got places in like houses. I was like,
yeah.
this house is older than where I'm from.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what was really just like fascinating for me at that time. So I don't have any photos
Mm.
because all of the photos I took were probably on a digital camera that I don't know where.
Yeah.
Because putting up photos wasn't a thing on Livejournal at the time. So I
Ah,
don't know where any of my photos are. And I know that I took a lot because
Could you put photos up on Livejournal then?
you could not at that time. That came much later.
Bet you can now though.
Probably.
Back into it. Come on. Got to revive the
No,
platform.
no, thank
Yeah,
you.
okay.
So, and I remember being just like very impressed with, so we were in Uji, which is that town famous for green tea, and literally all the shops had some green tea colored something.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is adorable. Like, it's so like charming and
Yeah.
lovely. And just being very, very charmed
Mm.
by Kyoto. And then we were in Kyoto for quite a while. So my next entry is also about Kyoto, which is January 15th.
Yeah.
So this was, again, this is the next day.
Mhm.
Not much happened yesterday. Saw another huge Buddha. The ears were about 8 feet long, if that says anything. And then we took an hour-long bus ride to Horyuji to see the Yumedono, or Dream Hall, which has a beautiful Kannon, which is a goddess of mercy, which you can't see, ... It's in a box. They only open once or twice a year. So yeah.
So you got to see the box.
Yeah, I have a
Okay.
story about that.
Okay.
It snowed more, and the snow never really sticks. It just kind of floats and melts.
Mm.
Today is the long-awaited tea ceremony at Daikakuji. So we get to sip tea with tea masters and eat sweets while kneeling, which I might add can become very, very painful. We went to this big Japanese place for late lunch.
Yeah.
And Yin, who was somebody who was studying Japanese with me at the time, really cool guy, finished his unagi donburi, which is a rice bowl topped with eel, in about 3 minutes. It was quite a sight to see. He also bought himself a 870 yen bottle of sake last night. Haha, nothing like 7-Eleven sake, I suppose.
Class.
Went to another bread shop last night, much to Jen's approval. Jen is another girl who was traveling with me at the time. And I saw lots of cute school uniformed boys and girls. Well, until next time. So January 15th, I kind of remember the tea ceremony.
Yep.
Sort of. Kind of. I remember
Was it just a watching or doing?
like participating in.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And I remember it was really cold in the temple that we did it in. And
kneeling, right? Seiza.
Yeah, seiza is the term in Japanese for like kneeling. And I was really horrible at it.
Yep.
And my boyfriend at the time, shout out to Danny, who's probably not listening or watching, but hello.
Hey.
He had done karate for a very long time.
Yeah.
So he could kneel like nobody's business. And he would just spring right up and we were all like, ugh, can't move.
Yep.
But anyway, so about the Kannon, the goddess of mercy statue in the box.
Right.
So I was very excited because I'd heard really great things about this Kannon. This beautiful, gorgeous. It's in the Dream Hall, for crying out loud, right?
That's saying something.
Right?
Yeah.
So I remember we got there and I was really excited, and it was just like you could only see like the outside of the box. And I look over and I'm like, Danny, it's in a box. And he's like, yeah, well, they don't open it like all the time. And I'm like, but this is like the main attraction.
What's the point?
Yeah, like what did we come here for? And he was like, well, like, what do you want me to say? And I'm like, but what's the
What do we do?
Yeah. It was a really funny moment. It's like you just can't see it. And I was so obviously like this left such an impression on me that I had to write it down.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm picturing Rachel now just picking up this box.
It's been like,
don't shake the box.
It's just in the box and there's like a lock on it. It's a very beautiful box.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to, like, what's in the box?
But it was a nice movie reference.
Seven, great movie. Yeah. What's in the box? Yeah, it was very that.
It was the goddess's head.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. Sorry.
Spoiler alert.
No goddesses in 7 though. Anyway.
So I remember the tea ceremony, and I remember the tea was like extremely, extremely bitter.
Yeah.
This is very thick green tea that they whisk together with the hot water, and there's a lot of like ceremony and all this stuff. But I remember it being very bitter.
Yeah.
And I remember, so my last comment about the school uniformed boys and girls, because for me, my only reference for school uniforms was Sailor Moon. And seeing all the traditional Japanese school uniforms and seeing them like in real life, I was like, oh my God, they're a
real?
thing.
Yeah.
They exist.
Yep.
They're adorable. Like, I just remember being very like, oh my God, this is like my anime moment.
Yeah.
You know, you go to the 7-Eleven, you buy your giant meronpan, your melon bread, your like sweet bread.
Yep.
And you look at the people in school uniforms and you're like, oh, like it's real. It's
it is.
real.
It's quite eye-opening, right? The first time. It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was a really huge thing.
Mm.
It's really weird. Like I mentioned so much about Kyoto, but I had a lot. I don't know. We were in Kyoto, I guess, for quite a while because
I was going to ask, did you
Like
go anywhere else?
well, we went to Osaka and Kobe and Tokyo as well.
Yeah.
But the first day, so January 12, 14, 15, 16, and then 17th, we left Kyoto. So we were there for quite a while in
Yeah, sounds
Kyoto.
like it.
After we only just saw like one performing arts thing, and the rest of it was kind of like
Yeah,
going around
yeah.
and seeing the sights.
Which back then would have been okay, I'm guessing, crowd-wise, because today,
Yeah,
like,
I don't remember it being really hideously crowded.
yeah,
The
like it would
the
have been, I
first
guess,
time.
busy, but not like,
Not like it is today.
yeah.
No, definitely not.
Mm,
Definitely not.
mm.
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to go again, but just the pictures you see nowadays, what you hear from people, like, it is packed.
Yeah, it's really hard to get a good photo without the back of a million people's heads in it,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
So we were in Kyoto for quite a while. There's all this stuff written about how like we did like calligraphy tracing.
Yeah.
And we got to talk to a monk.
Yeah.
We had lunch. I had fried oysters.
What did you
Awesome.
talk about?
Well, apparently, I said, and I quote, "The monk spoke to us about the teachings of Buddha, and it really touched me."
Mm.
That's all I've written.
He must have said some cool stuff.
I guess he must have said something that was very touching.
Yeah.
I don't remember,
Mhm,
but we went to see ikebana, which is flower arrangement,
Yep.
and so we saw 3 shrines in that day. On the 16th, we saw 3 different shrines.
Only?
Yeah, good Lord, we went to a lot of places.
Yeah.
And then we left Kyoto on the 17th, where we were going to go to Osaka, and Osaka is where we saw puppet theater bunraku.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now, people aren't familiar with bunraku.
Mhm.
Maybe we can like put a photo up of the puppets because they're quite
Yeah.
big. They're these massive puppets. And, usually in Western puppet theater, the puppeteers are kind of hidden. They're crouched beneath something, or you can't see them. You can just see the puppets. In bunraku, you can see the puppeteers. They're dressed in this very distinct
Mhm.
outfit, which is all black from head to toe.
Yeah.
They have like literally just their whole face is covered with black.
Yeah, for people who don't know, they'll probably go, why are there ninjas on stage?
Yeah. Very,
They got
very
that
that.
look. Yeah.
So we'll put a photo up, but it's very bizarre because when you're watching it and you start to just focus on the puppets,
Yeah.
you really forget that the puppeteers are there.
Well, yeah, if they're that good at it.
Like you forget, even though they're very plainly visible,
Mhm.
you forget that they're like on the stage, which is it's so surreal, it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
So we saw a bunraku performance, which was amazing because the puppets are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the costumes, the wig, like, and the way that they'll tilt the puppet forward or back to sort of like change the expression almost the
Yeah,
same way they do with like no masks.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
subtle just changes in the ankle,
Yeah.
but it gives a different emotion to what
Right.
they're portraying up. Yeah.
and it was really like wonderful.
Yeah.
And I remember I really enjoyed it. I have nothing written about it though in my life journal.
It was that good. I wrote nothing about it.
It's weird because I wrote nothing about the entertainment portion.
Yeah.
I've written a lot about food though.
Yeah, that'd be right.
Sounds about
Poor
right.
Rachel, yeah.
Right?
Hey, with the bunraku, we were talking about this a while ago, but
Mhm.
what's that commercial? Because it freaks the hell
Oh,
out of me. It's a little bit freaky. It's a bunraku.
I hope we should put a link to like the YouTube commercial because I bet
Yeah,
it's there.
you know what?
So
Yeah.
there's this in Hiroshima. There's a lot of very famous Japanese confections, right?
Mhm.
Momiji manju, the maple leaf shaped cake.
Okay, yeah.
But the other one of my personal favorites that I feel gets very often overlooked
Mhm.
is kawadori mochi.
Yeah.
Which is this rectangular piece of mochi, which is like a chewy pounded rice cake,
Mhm.
and inside they've sort of pounded it together with walnuts.
Yeah.
And they've topped it with kinako, which is a toasted soybean flour.
Yeah.
So it's like it's got a great chew, it's got a bit of a crunch, it's kind of toasty and warm.
Yeah.
And this kawadori mochi has a commercial that's been running for
I was going to say, how many years now?
it's been running, I mean, since I've been here,
But,
probably before, quite old.
my wife says she remembers it.
Well, there
as a
you go.
kid,
And how
so
old is your wife?
Old enough.
I'm sure she'll appreciate that.
Don't want to dox my wife. But,
She's probably,
what, she's mid-30s, mid to late. Yeah.
is she older than me or younger than me?
You guys are about the same.
Probably about the same.
Yeah.
So I'm 38, just so you know.
Yep.
So there's that. It's been running for probably a very long time. And they use the the bunraku puppets in the commercial, and it has this very like techno-y, like Asian
it's
music.
techno Asian-y 80s.
Yeah, very
kind
80s.
of.
Very 80s
Well, yeah,
feel.
that's probably how long it's been running for, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So we'll put a link up to that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, definitely.
Because it's a very like at first you're like, what is this a commercial for?
Mhm.
Like it doesn't seem like
Yeah,
it's a
no, no,
commercial for
it's like-
food because it has the puppets
No,
and all of that. And then at the end it's like kawadori mochi, and you're like, what does this have to do with mochi?
It kind of freaks me out, that commercial. I don't know if it's because of the like you can already see like this video is kind of dated.
Yeah.
So that combination of
It's got that
older
fuzzy,
video,
soft
right? So
80s feel.
yeah, VHS days, right?
Yeah.
But that coupled with freaky puppet together is just like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll put it up. It's quite interesting.
Imagine the board meeting. It's like, we need a new commercial. Let's keep running the other one. No problem.
They're like, it's not broke. Don't fix it.
Look,
Everyone loves the puppet. Everybody loves puppets.
I don't know, man. Might have to complain about that one. Should I?
No.
Should I send in a fax?
No. Yeah, send in a fax.
They'll get it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll get it.
So when I was in Osaka for the bunraku,
Yeah.
I didn't write about bunraku, but what I did write about was strawberry shortcake.
As you do.
Now, this is another thing that comes from my anime obsession is you always see delicious looking strawberry shortcake in anime.
Yeah.
And strawberry shortcake in Japan is very different from strawberry shortcake in the US. Do you have strawberry shortcake in Australia?
It's a thing, yeah.
What is it? What is it?
What?
How do you make a strawberry shortcake in Australia?
Oh,
Is
you're
it like the
looking at
Japanese one or?
No, it's
No.
pretty different.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm assuming it's probably similar to the one we have in the States, which is you have two like biscuits almost,
Yeah.
like doughy,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
cookies, not cookies,
No,
biscuits.
no, you mean the layers of cake
Yeah,
layer,
the kind
right?
of like
Yeah.
a flaky, doughy biscuit.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you put stewed strawberries that have been sweetened, and then you put whipped cream on top.
Yeah.
And that's strawberry shortcake.
That sounds like strawberry shortcake
Right?
to me. But
So strawberry shortcake in Japan is they take a ĝenwa, which is a layer sponge cake.
it's very sophisticated. One more time.
ĝenwa.
Thank
ĝenwa. It's this lovely sponge cake, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's very fluffy because it's made with meringue. So like you take egg whites and you beat them to nice white and fluffy and pillowy. And you try to use that air that you've whipped into the cake as sort of a way to lift the cake. So it's like biting into a cloud. It's just like, and then so they cut that cake into about 2 or 3 layers.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the layers, they put sweetened whipped cream and fresh strawberries that they've sliced.
Yeah.
And they layer that, and then they go around the whole cake with another layer of the sweetened whipped cream, and they top it with strawberries. We'll put a photo up of Japanese strawberry
I can
shortcake.
try. I'll put it up there.
Yeah. And
It looks like the anime?
it looks exactly like the anime like version that I've ever seen. And I wanted to try it so badly because I'd seen it and it always looked delicious.
Yeah.
And so I have
Yeah, a lot of food that I've seen in anime though, like it looks good.
yeah, they do a really good job
Yeah,
with the
they do a
food.
great job.
So when I was talking about Osaka, I said that I'm sad to see Kyoto go. I really like how it is a city without the big buildings and with delicious bread stores on every corner. But then again, Osaka has underground food marts with gourmet foods. Apparently, it is strawberry season here, and so strawberry shortcake is all the rage. I finally had some yesterday, and it was delicious. So winter is a big strawberry season in Japan. These are house-grown strawberries, obviously. The reason that they're big in winter is because they're used for Christmas cakes, which are strawberry shortcakes.
That's right.
That they eat on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they have this huge, it's like a massive like manufacturing thing where they get all the strawberries out in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So and I was there in January, which means it's still strawberry season.
Pretty much, yeah. Japanese strawberries.
So good. So
and
good.
there's some really expensive ones, right?
Yes. So I'm going to preface this with it depends on where you buy them.
Right.
So if you go to a department store, be prepared to pay out the nose because department store fruit is like the highest quality gold star we tuck them in each night and we give our little fruits a pat on the head and we talk to them and
Little blankets individually.
like that level of dedication.
Mhm.
Okay. But if you go to a regular grocery store, sometimes you can find them for, let's say, I want to say generally 700, 800 yen,
Yeah,
which
sounds
is
about right.
about $7 or $8 if the exchange rate was better.
Yeah. Don't talk. Oh, the exchange rate is.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into that because
shit.
it'll make me sad. But
Yeah.
but if you go to small, I want to say like mom and pop grocery stores,
Yeah.
you can find them for like 500 yens, $5. Sometimes like 400 yen, $4.
Yeah.
Sometimes even less, depending on where you go. So you really have to shop around. And these are still the same like high quality, delicious strawberries.
Mhm.
It's just you can find them cheaper.
But
And
have you seen those places where they're like the really expensive strawberries?
where they sell like
They're
the single individual strawberry in the
Right.
case? I have.
Yeah, because they're like,
And
actually, I don't even, do you know how much they can go up
oh, they can
to?
go for quite a lot.
Yeah,
I want to say like upwards of like 1,500. It's like $15,
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
$20
just the one.
for one.
Yeah,
And this is a big strawberry. And
Yeah.
I've never had the pleasure of having one. This is something I would do on somebody else's money, not my money,
of
obviously.
course. Yeah, I mean, because they look great.
Oh
And then
yeah.
you see that price tag and go,
You're like, no.
that's a strawberry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's amazing, but like also even cheap strawberries are amazing. So I don't think you have to like bend over backwards to,
Yeah.
you know. I'm sure it's delicious. And I would try one if given the opportunity, obviously, but
Still time. You can do this.
if anybody wants to buy me a massive single strawberry and see me eat it on camera, I am more than happy to do it. Send us a message or a DM. You can follow us on Instagram at the Waiting Room JPN. Send us a DM. I'll send you my address. We can work this out. You know,
Don't send
hook a
one.
girl up. You send two.
Send at least two. We're going on that. If you're still listening,
Hook a podcast up.
time to do the little spiel. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. If you're enjoying it, of course. If you're not,
Even if you're not.
just do it anyway.
Even if you're not. Yeah.
Let
Even if you're
everybody
not.
know.
You've got about an hour that you know that you really need to have something in your ears for.
Yeah.
Cleaning the
exactly.
house,
Mhm.
your commute. You know, don't think about how much you hate your job. Think about how much you love listening to us.
Yeah. Tune in.
Tune
we
in.
talk about crap.
Yeah.
You know it. Anyway.
So, yeah, anime food. Anime food.
Oh, anime food. Yeah, when someone says anime food, though, the one that sticks in my head straight away is the Howl's Moving Castle breakfast.
That's my favorite.
I have to put photos of
That's
that one
my
up. Are we
favorite.
allowed to put those photos up?
Oh yeah.
But anyway.
The thick streaky bacon and
Yeah.
the sunny side up
simple
eggs.
breakfast, right? But it looks like I want that.
That's my ideal breakfast, to be honest. So anyway, back to
Sorry.
I wanted to say back to the music, but that's your other podcast, not this podcast.
Listen to Iron Maiden, baby. I'll put a link in there for
Shout
that
out
one.
to Ash. Shout
Hey,
out to Ash. So anyway, arrived in Osaka, saw Bunraku, wonderful.
Mm.
And then we skip over a few days. So January 17th, we left Kyoto and arrived in Osaka.
Yep.
January 19th is the last night in Osaka.
Mm.
And I was at an internet cafe because the hotel we were staying at didn't have a communal chunky boy desktop. So I went to an internet cafe to go pay for the internet, which is 180 yen plus all the free drinks you can drink.
Oh, hang on. For just 180 yen. That's
just
it?
for like the hour or whatever. It was quite cheap. Quite cheap.
That's not bad.
So like $1.80.
Yeah.
Probably at the exchange rate at the time was probably much better. So let's say it was about $1.80.
Mm-hmm.
So on January 19th, we saw Takarazuka. Takarazuka, and this is so cringy because this is so not right, but this is what I said and I'm going to own it. Lesbian theater, as I call it. It's actually all women theater with the glitz and tinsel of Hollywood and Broadway Barbie. Bunraku, or puppet theater, was pretty cool. Oh, so I did say something about Bunraku.
Yeah.
Both were entertaining anyway. Tomorrow's a 2-hour Shinkansen ride to Tokyo for the final leg of my journey. So Takarazuka.
That's a different ballgame.
I apologize for calling it lesbian theater because it's not. But it's essentially female drag. So it's women.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it is. So it's all women theater, and they play both parts, the men and the women.
Yeah.
So the women there are kind of like, what do they call them? Like AFAB queens. So they're biological women playing super hyper feminine, beautiful women, wigs, makeup, costumes, the whole thing.
Yep.
And the men are essentially drag kings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
pretty much.
they dress and have like the the very like the stereotypical like masculine,
Mhm.
and they're so beautiful.
Yeah.
They're all
Masculine yet feminine at the same
extremely
time.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Just so beautiful. And it is a hugely popular form of theater. It is extremely difficult to get tickets.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how my teacher swung these tickets. And we saw them. There was this massive staircase, and they were descending the staircase in
Yeah.
these massive heels without even looking down at their feet, just singing, "Ah, Takurazuka." It was so wild.
Yeah.
Wild. Like, just incredible.
These actors, like, they're top notch. Like, from
They're
what I know, like, it's like a, what would you say, like, almost like a university, like, to get in.
They have a
y-
school,
Yeah.
and it's every single year on the news in Japan. They cover the day where they announce the results of who got in and who didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the girls who are young girls at the time
Mhm.
who want to be the male parts, they have their hair cut short.
Yeah.
And it's like they have it parted and slicked back.
Mhm.
And then the girls who want to be the girl parts, they have like long hair, like curly, beautiful.
Yeah.
And they're all like either crying because they got in or crying because they didn't get in.
Well, it would be almost like, say in other countries, like, the prestigious ballet schools, right?
Yes, very that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the news recently, there was a girl who got into the school and she suffered bullying and overworking, and she took her own life. So the Takarazuka school had to like issue an official statement because
Mm.
apparently these girls are working like 16 hours a day,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
like
full on.
insane. It's really hardcore
Yeah.
theater.
Yeah.
But if you are successful,
Mhm.
because they have different what are they called? I know it in Japanese. I'm trying to think of the word in English. So they have different classes. So like you are
Oh,
in,
the class of actors, you mean?
or like, so you know how in like Japanese preschools they're like, oh, this is the flower class, this is the moon
Right.
class.
Right. Yeah.
So they have the same kind of thing where they're like, okay, this is like the flower,
Mhm.
or like the moon, or like they have those names for like these different sort of classes within the whole school.
Yeah.
And so, where was I going with this? Oh,
There are different
so
classes.
so if you are very successful at what you do and you're part of one of the more popular classes, you can go on to become an actress on TV or in films.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there are quite a few Takarazuka like based actresses who are very successful in Japan as well.
Yeah.
And this, you are just very classically trained in singing,
Mhm.
in dancing, like everything.
Yeah.
And it's just really wild to see because it's such a like the aesthetics
Mhm.
are insane. Everything is beautiful. Everything is dreamy. Everything is like romantic.
Yeah.
Like it's just so. It was like nothing I had ever seen.
Mhm.
Because at that point, I didn't really know what drag was
Yeah.
at all. That my introduction to drag came way later.
Yeah.
So it was like my first kind of look at like a drag king, and just being like these
Well,
these
Takarazuka,
like
that's
these men are hot, but they're also ladies who are hot, and like this is incredible.
that's a whole different level, though. If you that's what you're seeing for the first time.
Yeah, it was like you start out seeing like the
Mhm.
best of the
Mhm.
best. Um,
And they're also known just like in that region of
so they're
Japan,
all
right?
based in Hyogo.
Yeah.
There's a city called Takarazuka City, and
Figures.
they're all based there. But it's really just like magical and fantastic. It's like nothing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And I remember just being so like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wow.
So,
Like
have you actually seen any more since then? Or?
no,
No?
I have not seen any of the no Bunraku Kabuki Takarazuka. I've never seen them ever again because
Yeah.
I think it's really hard to get tickets. I believe
That sounds like
I
it.
could be wrong,
Yeah. I
but
haven't tried, but I wouldn't mind going to see it.
Takarazuka I know was quite hard to get tickets.
Yeah.
I believe you have to be like part of the fan club.
Well,
I
you're saying
think
that sounds right. These people are celebrities.
Yeah.
And
huge celebrities.
yeah, they go on actresses or whatever. Because one of the I think I forget who it's for now. But one of the commercials on at the moment,
Mhm.
I didn't know, and so I find them quite humorous. Good laugh, and
Mhm.
my wife said, "Hey, no, that's one of those. She used to be a famous actor." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, really?" So, yeah, if we've got a picture or another link, I'll pop in some of those commercials. But really cool. I'd like to
Yeah.
check it out.
It's really interesting. I recommend if you have the chance to see, really, these are very highly respected traditional forms of performing arts.
Yeah.
If you have the chance to see them,
Mhm.
like 1,000% recommend doing it for sure. So other than ʀᴏᴜᴅ, I also mentioned a little bit of a disaster that happened that day, which is
What happened?
I dropped
What
half
happened?
my strawberry shortcake today. Sad face. Definitely felt awful, all the luscious berries, but it's only cake. Perfect. Yeah. All the luscious
Dropped your cake
berries. All the luscious berries. 2 explanation points after that.
on the floor.
Yeah. Had some delicious curry here, and of course, specialty of Osaka, takoyaki. It was so delicious. I just eat and eat and eat if I could. So again, curry. I was like obsessed.
Bring it on.
I'm glad I had takoyaki though. Takoyaki, for those of you that don't know, is batter that they sort of fry, not really fry. They kind of saute in these like round molds. So,
Basic description when most people go, it's octopus balls.
yeah, I know. Which
But
doesn't
not
really.
those balls.
Yeah, it's like a dough ball
Yeah.
with a piece of cooked octopus inside,
Yeah,
served
just
with like a
little piece.
sweet and savory sauce,
Mhm.
and like bonito shavings on top.
Yep.
It's super delicious.
Mhm.
Super delicious.
Really good.
I remember seeing somebody selling takoyaki when I was in Sydney.
Mhm.
We were at the fish market.
Yeah.
And they were selling takoyaki for this like ridiculous price. And I was like, that's way too much to charge for
I can
takoyaki.
imagine.
Takoyaki is street food. It's
Yeah.
not a gourmet experience. It's like street food. You get like 6 or 8 pieces at a clip.
I can imagine this guy's probably only put like in each takoyaki one tiny little piece of, just one piece of octopus.
Well,
in
they also
there,
had like
probably.
shrimp and squid in there as well for the one in Sydney to make
Well,
it
that's the thing. Yeah, I
a little
like
bit
how
more
you can,
palatable.
if you're making it yourself, it's like you don't have to put octopus in there.
You can throw whatever you want in
Whatever
there.
you want. Yeah.
But you should, because octopus is delicious.
Yeah.
So I believe this was the last post that I made.
Yeah.
Was January 19th. So I didn't talk about my time in Tokyo. We saw Kabuki theater, which I'm pretty sure, I don't think I need to explain Kabuki. Y'all know, right? Like,
And that's one most people know when they think of
flashy makeup,
Japanese.
massive
Yeah.
wigs, flashy costumes. Like, this has been going on for, like, I want to say thousands of years.
Yeah.
Because probably, like, in the Edo period and all that.
Probably.
Even before that, they were doing Kabuki.
Yeah.
And they had these earpieces for simultaneous translation.
Oh, back then too.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Which I thought was pretty crazy because I'd never had an experience with simultaneous translation earpiece receivers.
Yeah.
And the plays are quite long.
Mhm.
I want to say it was like 2 or 3 hours or something, quite long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really long. And so we had the simultaneous interpretation receivers and we were like enjoying
Mhm.
the spectacle that is Kabuki theater.
Yeah.
And I remember the theater, we were at like the National Theater, I think, the Kabukiza. So the National Kabuki Theater, which I believe is the correct word for that. And I remember it was like so classy and so like beautiful and just being in awe of how much history I was around the whole time I was in Japan.
Yeah.
And I came back and I was jet lagged to hell on the way back as well. But I just remember being like, oh, like, thank God I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad I didn't hate it. And like trying to find out when I could come back next. But that's a story for another time. So that was my first trip to Japan.
That was a good trip.
It was quite, I didn't think I could talk for that long about my first trip to Japan, but that was my first trip.
She can talk, people. But that's the difference. You came here with notes and everything and did research, whereas I need to rely on my brain.
You didn't have a live journal?